Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I make scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. I am starting off with a piece of craft cardstock here. This piece is a lighter piece of craft. It's called Potter's Clay. It's my current favorite for craft paper. It's just a little bit lighter than most craft paper, makes a really beautiful neutral background. And I am stamping using smoky slate ink from Stampin' Up! And I'm actually using what's called second generation stamping, which means that I am inking up my stamp and then I'm stamping it off on a piece of scrap paper. And then I am stamping the second generation of ink onto my project here. I'm doing this because this is actually my second time doing this pattern on my background paper. The first time I did not use second generation stamping, and I did really like how it turned out, but it was just a little bit too dark. So I am trying to go back and do it all over again with a lighter touch. And that means just inking off onto that piece of scrap paper before I stamp. This is a Tim Holtz stamp from Stampers Anonymous. It's called Fresh Brewed Blueprint, and you can still get this stamp if you're looking for it. It's beautiful. It comes as part of a 4-stamp set. You can get this same stamp set in a smaller version, but I have the big version here. So there's the original one, which was not with the second generation stamping, and it was just a little bit too dark. I do still really like that, and I'm just thinking about what I might use it for. I might cut it up into 4x6 and 3x4 pieces and use it for Project Life, or I might use it for layers, or who knows how I'll use it, but I'll definitely use it because I really love it. Now, this is my background. I'm going to be scrapbooking with the Dream Big kit from MercyTiara Kits today, and this cardstock, the Potter's Clay cardstock that I just stamped on, actually is not part of the add-on, the cardstock add-on for that kit, but it does come in a previous kit. It actually comes in at least 2 other cardstock add-ons. I love this color so much, I've included it as the cardstock add-on in a couple of different places. So, and it's also really easy to get. It's by Basil and it's called Potter's Clay. So I have this photo of coffee, and this is actually my second layout about coffee with this kit and in recent times. The last layout that I made, I didn't do a whole lot of journaling about coffee, and so I wanted to take another opportunity to scrapbook more coffee. I have plenty of coffee photos in my photo roll, in my camera roll, and I just wanted to have an opportunity to scrapbook it again. This time I'm going to do quite a bit more journaling. In the last one, I think I did no journaling, and the video for that one is called Coffee and Tea, and I will link it up in the information section in the corner as a card as well. So I don't have any plan for this one other than I wanted to make my own patterned background with the stamp. And so now that I have that, I'm not exactly sure what else I'm going to do. So I'm just having a look at the scraps that I have from the last layout. This is the second layout I made with this kit, so I have plenty of supplies left to work with. And I'm just playing around with different ideas. I'm pretty sure that I want to match this homemade patterned paper that I created out of the coffee cup stamp. And I'm leaning towards the black patterned paper there. So I'm going to do that. All of these pattern papers that you're seeing came in the Dream Big kit. And so I am going to be matting that patterned paper that I just created with the black is what I'm going to end up doing. So sometimes I try a couple of different things just to see what looks good, and I'm deciding to go with the black. Now, I also would like to use some of this patterned paper in the layers of my layout as well. So I'm actually going to gut that black patterned paper. But first, I'm just going to take a little bit off of each of 2 adjacent sides. So I'm taking a little bit less than 1/2 inch off of 2 adjacent sides, which means that my matting is going to be just under 1/4 inch all the way around this page. That means that I can take most of the center of this black paper out. So I'm just using my trimmer to do that. And I'm always fairly generous and give myself a good wide berth when I am cutting this out. I don't want I want to have enough paper there for my background to fit on it and connect well with glue. So that's the size that I went with. And I'm just going to use my ATG to attach some adhesive all the way around. And then I'll center out my DIY patterned paper. And now there it is, all matted on the black. Now, one of the reasons I chose the black is that I wanted to pick up on the black that's in the background of the photo. My hands are holding a coffee cup on a black countertop. So that brings some black out into the layout, and I will be repeating black in a couple of different places. Now, in our newsletter, there is that we have a kit planning tool, and part of that kit planning tool that comes in the newsletter includes a big chunk for journaling, just in case you want to get your thoughts organized before you put them on your page. And so I have my journaling pre-written here, and I did kind of change it as I went. I was going to mat this photo on the pink paper, the pink pattern paper, but right before I made my last cut, I decided I think I kind of like it with this big chunk of pink on the side. So I'm actually not going to trim down the third side. So it's matted on 3 sides with an extra wide space on the left side of the photo. I grabbed my punch little sample cards that I recently made to see which border punch I might want to grab for. I decided to grab my border, what are these? Bracket. I think they're brackets, like curly brackets. I decided to grab that punch because I haven't used it for a long time. So I thought, let's use that one. At first, I was going to just tear the paper, and I really like the look of this as an alternative to tearing paper. Now so I've got that horizontal pink piece and now this floral piece with some beautiful colors in it. I'm going to make that piece be a more of a vertical piece for now. Eventually it's going to get cut down quite a bit, but for now it's going to stay a vertical piece. And so these two make almost like a backwards L or an elbow kind of shape. Sometimes I call this layout and this design an elbow layout because it's like a right angle. I'm going to repeat that bracket punch on the other piece of pattern paper. And I'm layering both of these pieces that have the border punch with a little bit of the black pattern paper that I already used as the outside edge on the matting of the whole layout. This adds some contrast to the layers, helps these are fairly soft pattern papers, right? It helps them differentiate from the background, and it also helps accentuate that really pretty bracket pattern that I get from using the border punch there. And so I do really like that. And I'm thinking I'm going to continue that matting on the other side. There isn't a punch here, so it's just going to be straight, and that's okay too. And then I decided I'm going to be matting both of the vertical edges with that same black patterned paper. Now, some of these are going to get pulled off and covered up over time. I think that this is a lot of black lines, but we're going to start this way and then we'll work our way from there. I do want these chunks of paper to be relatively straight and not askew. I often go askew because I like the casual look of that. But in this case, because the stamp on my background has lots of horizontal and vertical lines because of the blueprint nature of it, I thought I would go with that. Also, there's those strong lines around the outside edges with the matting, and I just felt like it would feel more congruous all lined up like that. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, this was just a bit of a lark. I had this sitting on my desk. This is the cut file that comes with the Dream Big main kit. And as a lark, I just stuck it behind to say, oh, well, I was about to put it away and said, well, before I put it away, let's just see how it looks. And I actually really liked it. So I'm going to leave it there and chew on that idea. In terms of, well, maybe because this is a coffee layout, I'll say that I'm going to percolate on that idea and decide whether that's something that I want to keep on the layout or not. I'm grabbing a couple of embellishments. Those flag embellishments came in the embellishment add-on, and I really love them. We get 3 of them. They come in a set of 6, but we get 3 in the kit, and I just love them. And I always find that I like those, but I never use a whole pack. So that's why the kit includes a partial pack of those. Now I also have the 49 in Market tickets that came in this kit as well. We got a little assortment of tags from 49 in Market in various colors. So I'm using the gray ones there. And one of those tags is upside down, or the tickets or whatever is upside down. And I don't mind. I like how it looks like that. So I'm leaving it even though it's upside down. I'm grabbing some embellishments from the journaling die cuts from Poppy and Pear. This came in the main kit. And I'm basically just picking out anything that I think will go with this, with the colors that I already have here. And I also want to have some room for some journaling, although my journaling is quite lengthy, as you can see over there under the journaling on my newsletter. So I'm not sure at this point if I'm going to spread my journaling out across a couple of different places, but I definitely want a little embellishment right to the immediate left of the photo where that paperclip banner is. I'm going to layer a few different embellishments there. And now I'm thinking that maybe my journaling, if I wrote it really, really tiny, it might fit on that purple journaling card and extend onto the blue one behind it. So I'm going to put those up in the top corner there as my secondary cluster. That will hold the journaling, I hope, fingers crossed. And then my main embellishment cluster will be all these layers that are under the photo. So it's shaping up pretty good, but I do want to remember to repeat some of those. I've got 2 pattern papers in the main cluster, and I want to remember to repeat those patterns. So I just cut chunks of both the pink and the floral paper, and also a little chunk of the black. And I left it up there in the top corner so that I can remember that I want to incorporate at least one, maybe preferably both of those patterns, so that the top secondary cluster has a repetition of at least some of the elements from the main cluster. Now, I am pretty sure that I'm going to adhere these hearts, and I'm pretty sure that the floral paper there is going to need to be shortened. So I think that's why I grabbed my trimmer. And once I put those hearts in place, they covered up the black strip of paper anyway. So I just tore off the black strip of paper, and I will layer these tickets right behind there. And this cluster is coming along pretty good. And here's where I'm deciding to shorten this. I'm just using the overall cluster to be able to size it properly. And then that extra little bit, it has the black trim on both sides of it. That will become something that I'll work into my secondary cluster too. It's a really nice way to repeat that element of that floral pattern paper with the black border on it. I'm going to outline this die cut before I use it. It's from the Poppy and Pear, and it just has it's a little tab. I love tabs. They're one of my favorite things. And the orangey color picks up on some of the coffee colored foam in the cup. So I really like how that picks up. Ooh, when I grabbed my stamps, I noticed that I had some candy in my drawer. So I'm going to have one of these. These little candies are at a Greek restaurant that I like to go to, and I love them so much that my family bought me a whole package of them. So I no longer have to go to the Greek restaurant to get these candies. They taste like black licorice, and I love black licorice. So let's just get this little tab in place. I wanted it to span across the edge of that floral paper, and I really love this little vellum piece from the die cut sets. It says me time, and drinking coffee is good me time. And now see how that piece of paper that I cut off of the main cluster, it really fits well with the secondary cluster. So I'll just leave that up there for now so I don't forget about it. And I noticed that one of these little pull apart pieces says self-care, and I thought that was appropriate for the story I'm going to tell as well. It's a really pretty purple color and picks up on some of the purples that are elsewhere, including up in that secondary cluster. So when I introduced that purple journaling tag, I knew I'd have to pull in a couple of other pieces of purple, so that self-care does that. Repetition is important to make these. They're so colorful, and I want it to look like it all belongs and has some cohesion. Now, this is, I think, supposed to be like a tag with a tear apart little ticket attached to the bottom. And I just wanted to make it look a little bit more authentic. So I poked holes. In retrospect, I could have punched holes with my 1/16 of an inch hole punch. I think that might have looked even more authentic, but I just poked them with a piercing tool. I'm going to put some plain beige string on the top of the tag. I love to put strings on my tags because it makes it look a little bit more like a real tag. And I layered the journaling piece over that tag so that the two journaling pieces will be one on top of another, so that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to fit all of my journaling on that purple one, so at least I have some room on the blue one underneath for my journaling to continue. Now, I did layer that piece that I cut off of the main embellishment where the floral piece was too long. I did layer that with those tags, and now I'm going to go ahead and do my journaling. Now, I have to write this very, very tiny in order for it to fit, but it does fit. I'm very, very pleased. It says, I actually have to pull it closer because it's so tiny, I can't read it from where it is. Coffee. It's so much more than a drink. It's a soothing ritual, connection, warmth, energy, a neutral palette to add flavor, foam, sprinkles. Coffee can be quick and dirty, or it can be luxuriously elaborate. Whether from a percolator, French press, Chemex, espresso machine, Nespresso, or Keurig, coffee is where it's at. In a takeout cup, a travel carafe, or a special mug, or even forgotten in a microwave, it's a constant or near constant, and in brackets, as long as my stomach can tolerate it, in a changing world. And that's what I had written down, and that's what I transcribed. So jump ahead till that is done, and we're ready to glue this down. Using my ATG, I will just position that up at the top here, and then I'll flip it over and trim off the extra bit there. And I positioned that as high as I could so that I could have some space between that secondary cluster and this, my main cluster. I didn't want the two clusters to be connected at all. I decided where I wanted, I liked how it looked with the heart die cut piece, the heart cut file sticking out. So I just took a quick picture so that I could landmark it and place my layers exactly that way, so that I like that even though you can only see little points of it every here and there, I like that your brain kind of completes the image and you kind of know that it's a heart. I'm going to put some little foam stickers behind this just to pop that up off the page a little bit. Just the lower part, because it's supposed to be kind of hanging, so it's almost like on a little flap. Now, before I place this paperclip banner onto my page, I'm just using my fingernails to very gently rough up the edges of all of the little pieces that are layered on this. These pieces are really beautifully layered, and I find that if you don't rough them up, you kind of lose some of the dimension because they lay very, very, very flat. And so just taking my fingernails to lift it up a little bit, it makes it obvious that it's not just printed on there. Those are actual layers. And so I want to be able to see that. This set of frames here, I actually tore it. I broke it when I was putting adhesive on it, but I just fixed it. I cut it in half so that I could use half on one side and half on the other side. That just adds this tiny little layer of color. It also adds another place where there's purple. Of course, there's purple on the ampersand of that banner flag as well, or paperclip banner. And I need a little something else. I wanted to layer three things here. So I've got the banner flag, the journaling piece, and now I have a heart. And that picks up on the red heart that's on the other side that's tucked in behind. I wanted to repeat that red color. And now I'm also going to have to repeat the red color up in the top secondary cluster, but I'm not quite ready to do that yet. So I'm going to pop up that flag, paperclip flag, and layer it with that journaling piece right there. And then I'm going to pop dot. So that journaling piece is just flat. And now I'm going to pop up the heart as well. And this heart is actually die cut such that there's a little sliver that pops out and then it can be used as a paper clip, but I'm just using it as a solid heart. So I just ignored that, did not pop out the little sliver, and I'm just using it as a heart. Now here's that self-care, which is purple, picks up on the little touches of purple that are here and there. Purple is definitely a secondary color on this page. Like I'm trying to repeat it and make sure that it is contributing to that pulled together look. When you're using a lot of colors, it does help to make sure that you're repeating them in a nice balanced way so that your page looks really pulled together and not just like a bunch of random colors. Although, you know what? A bunch of random colors usually looks pretty darn good too. So do whatever works for you. But I do like to repeat my colors in an intentional kind of a way. So that self-care layers over top of the red heart, and I like how that little cluster over to the left of the photo is shaping up. I think it looks great. I forgot all about these foam thickers that came in the kit, so I pulled those out and noticed that the banner works really good across the bottom of the photo. So I placed that there. It also has a little bit of purple in it, so that's another repetition of that color. This is from Rainbow Avenue, so it's a different collection than some of the other things I've been working with. That's what I love about this kit, is that it combines a bunch of different things so that your pages don't look super matchy-matchy the way that they would if you were using a collection. I do like matchy-matchy sometimes, but I also like the option of having some things in my stash that look kind of different and more eclectically pulled together than a collection usually looks. I had planned on stitching around the outside edges of this, and then I forgot. And at this point, the page is assembled too much for it to be really easy for me to stitch around the edges. So I decided to use my marker to doodle around the edges, just a little doodly border. And then I'm just pulling up the edges with my fingernails to make the edges of the paper look a little bit rattier and kind of distressed. Distressed is the word I'm looking for. Yes, distressed. I am checking out these two die cut sets because I'm looking for a way that I can repeat that red color there's a red heart over to the left of the photo, and then there's another red heart. It's one of three that are on a purple background that's tucked under the photo over on the right-hand side. So I'd like to find a third red. There isn't a third red heart. I looked on the little piece of paper backing thing that tells you what's in each collection, but there are a few other things. So there's this hand holding a red heart, there's a red thing of string, and then there are two red flowers that are the same reddish color as those hearts. So those are my options for how I might be able to repeat red up in the top secondary cluster. So let's just see how we might want to do that. So there's this, although once I layer it in there, it's really just the pink is showing and not so much of the red. And that string is kind of random, so I'm going to say no to the string. But this flower, it works well. So I'm just going to trim off a little bit of it and slide it in behind some of those journaling pieces so that there is at least a little touch of red up there, even though it's not really clear what it is. It's just a little blob. If you look closely, you can see that they're flower petals. The other half that I had cut, it's actually more than half, I just tucked it over here. So I have, again, just a little repetition of the flower element. I didn't want to have just like one flower on the whole page, so I just paired it up with the other half of it. Now I was going to use the string that came in this Paige Evans embroidery kit that we sold at Christmas time as an add-on for our holiday kit. I do still have it, and those colors work amazing with this kit, but I felt like it would be too colorful if I used embroidery floss as my little decorative element on this. So what I've decided to do instead is go into my stash and use my upholstery thread and also my gold thread and bundle up little messy bundles of it, staple it together so that it holds itself together while I tuck it, and tuck it in 3 different places. Upholstery thread is thicker than regular thread. It does hold its circular shape from being on the spool, and that's something that I really like about this thread as opposed to regular thread that kind of goes wild when you unspool it. I really like the loopy look that I get with my upholstery thread versus regular thread. Also, it is because it's a thicker thread, it's a little bit more bold looking than regular thread is. So I very much prefer upholstery thread to regular thread for the most part. But I don't have any gold upholstery thread, so the gold thread is just regular thread. So I will put some little bundles of both gold and black thread in the 3 places. My main kind of visual triangle on this would be over on the right side of the photo, over on the left side of the photo, and then up in the top left-hand corner is the 3rd corner of that visual triangle. And having a triangle like that on your page helps to guide your eyes around the page to take in all of the important elements. And I'm using liquid glue here to hold my thread in place. This is uh, Art Glitter Art Glitter Dries Clear Designer Adhesive. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but that's what it is. It's my favorite liquid adhesive these days. I was using Tombow Mono Multi, and I do still really love that, but this is just a joy to use. And I love because it has the optional metal tip for precision, and I really, really love that. So they're separate items, but I do really like that glue with that tip. Now, I just wanted to put a random goose because it feels like no page is complete without a random goose on it these days. There are 2 geese on this set of stickers, and so there will be another layout that has a random goose on it too. And I just think it's super cute. So I made him be sitting right beside the journaling, and he looks like he's reading it, and it's really cute and adorable. I also added the word latte to the journaling circle or oval that's over to the left of my photo, and I added a little puffy coffee cup. It's a teacup, but I'm calling it a coffee cup above the word latte. And now this page is complete, or so you would think. I am going to do some splatter before I finish everything off. And I was going to, well, and I did, I'm going to use this pearlized white paint. This is metallic watercolor. It's a Set by Prima. And I don't quite have enough water on it to be loading you want to load your brush. I'm using a fan brush. And you want to load it up enough that it's going to drip off of the bristles. And mine was not loading up properly. I didn't add enough water. So here I am. I'm actually using a round brush now. Both will splatter fine. I find that the fan brush splatters a little bit more widely and with smaller dots than the round brush, but both will splatter fine. The fan brush actually comes in the mixed media kit for the Dream Big add-on. So those sprinkles that I put on, the splatter that I put on with the silver paint was a little bit too silvery gray-ish, and I wanted some nice opaque white sprinkles on there as well. So I just took some gouache and added some water, and I'm using that same round brush. Again, I could have used the fan brush, but I just didn't. Once I added the water, it's really adding the water that makes the difference, not the brush that you use. And I do like the larger splatter in this case that I got with the round brush. Anyhow, So before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to all of my process videos and real-time unedited versions of most of my videos, as well as a monthly live stream or more often live streams. I've been live streaming quite a bit over there lately, and also behind the scenes videos of my room and my process. And thanks to you also for watching this video. Feel free to leave me a comment if you have anything to say about this. I love to hear from you. Look at that goose. Isn't he just the cutest little thing ever? The page just wasn't complete without him. He needed to be on this page. So there's one last shot of the page, and here are some of the places where you can find me on social media. You can head over to patreon.com/MercyTiara if you're interested in watching some of those live streams that I have over there or some real-time videos. Thanks so much for watching. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.